The Supreme Court has just released a potential landmark decision impacting the future of birthright citizenship in the U.S. The justices were asked to roll back nationwide injunctions against the president's attempt to redefine the 14th Amendment, which states that anyone born in the U.S. is automatically a U.S. citizen, regardless of their parents' citizenship status.
Jack Smith just dropped an absolutely devastating bombshell that has Trump spiraling right now. The special counsel who investigated Trump for years just spent over 8 hours testifying under oath to Congress. And what he said is explosive. Smith told lawmakers he had enough evidence to convict Trump beyond a reasonable doubt on election interference, on classified documents, on everything. The only reason Trump wasn't charged? DOJ policy against indicting sitting presidents. Not immunity, not lack of evidence, just a policy that expires the moment Trump leaves office. And here's what makes this absolutely terrifying for Trump. Smith isn't just saying this in some closed-door conversation. He said it under oath, under subpoena, in front of Congress, creating a permanent record that can never be erased. And he wrote it in his official report that's now public. The admissible evidence was sufficient to obtain and sustain a conviction at trial. That's prosecutors speak for. The case is airtight. Trump is guilty, and conviction is virtually certain if charges are allowed. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Network, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. And seriously, check right now if you're actually subscribed to this channel, because you might think you are but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what actually went down. December 16th and 17th, 2025. Jack Smith appears before the House Judiciary Committee. Closed-door deposition. But he's under oath. Required to answer questions, no wiggle room. And according to reporting, he told lawmakers he had proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump participated in a criminal scheme to overturn the 2020 election. That Trump willfully retained classified documents and obstructed efforts to recover them. That Trump engaged in an unprecedented criminal effort to stay in power despite losing. Now let me bring the receipts on why this is so damning. Because Smith didn't just investigate Trump casually, he interviewed 250 witnesses. That's massive. That's career prosecutors, FBI agents, grand jury testimony from dozens of witnesses, search warrants, subpoenas, data analysis, everything you do in a major federal criminal case, and all of it pointing to Trump's guilt. Think about what 250 witnesses means. Low-level staffers, state officials, election workers, lawyers, advisors, people who saw what happened, who heard what Trump said, who participated or witnessed or documented the scheme, all of them providing evidence, all of them corroborating each other's testimony. And Smith's official report, released in January 2025, lays it all out. This is a formal DOJ document, not opinion, not speculation. Official special counsel conclusion after years of investigation. And it says Trump engaged in an unprecedented criminal effort to overturn the 2020 election. The report specifies charges: conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of an official proceeding, both serious federal crimes, both proven beyond reasonable doubt according to Smith's analysis. The report lays it out element by element, evidence by evidence, showing how each legal requirement was met, how proof existed, how conviction was achievable. Notice what Smith is doing here. He's not being vague. He's not hedging. He's saying flat out, I had the evidence. I could have convicted Trump. The only thing stopping me was a policy, not law, not the Constitution. Just an internal DOJ guideline that says we don't indict sitting presidents. And that policy expires the moment Trump leaves office. Now let's talk about the classified documents case, because this is where Smith has Trump dead to rights. The report says Trump willfully retained national defense information. That's the crime. Taking classified documents, keeping them when told to return them, showing them to unauthorized people, obstructing government efforts to recover them. And Smith proved all of it beyond reasonable doubt, with witnesses, with documents, with recordings. including that audio recording where Trump is discussing a classified document about Iran, saying he can't declassify it now that he's not president, admitting it's classified, showing it to people without clearances. That's a smoking gun. That's Trump on tape admitting the crime while committing it. You literally cannot get better evidence than that. And the obstruction. Smith documented Trump's efforts to hide documents, to lie to his lawyers, to have boxes moved to avoid the FBI, to claim everything was returned when it wasn't. All evidence of consciousness of guilt, of knowing he had documents he shouldn't have, of deliberately hiding them, of obstructing the investigation. Because what I'm about to show you is why Trump is absolutely panicking right now. Smith spent 8 hours under oath answering questions from Congress. And he wasn't vague, he wasn't uncertain. He told lawmakers he had proof beyond reasonable doubt on both cases, that Trump committed crimes, that evidence would convict him, that the only obstacle was DOJ policy. Just policy, not law, not constitutional requirement, just internal DOJ guidelines. And those guidelines expire the moment Trump's not president. The policy doesn't apply anymore. And all this evidence, all these witnesses, all this proof becomes usable, chargeable, prosecutable. Now here's where Trump's immunity defense is crumbling, because Trump's been claiming he has absolute immunity, that the Supreme Court gave it to him, that he can't be prosecuted for anything he did as president. But that's not what the court said. The Supreme Court's immunity decision was complicated. It gave Trump some immunity for official acts, but it was limited. For acts within constitutional authority, not for everything, not for crimes, not for personal conduct or campaign activities. The court drew lines, said some conduct is prosecutable, and lower courts have been interpreting that decision narrowly, rejecting Trump's broad immunity claims, saying no, immunity doesn't cover election interference, doesn't cover retaining classified documents, doesn't cover obstruction, chipping away at Trump's protection, making clear that the vast majority of what Smith investigated is not covered by immunity. So Trump's immunity defense is falling apart. Courts are saying he doesn't have blanket protection, that crimes can be prosecuted, that immunity has limits, and each ruling makes Smith's case stronger, makes future prosecution more viable, makes conviction more likely. Notice what's happening here. The legal pathway is becoming crystal clear. Trump leaves office in January 2029. Immunity expires for non-official conduct. Smith's evidence gets used. Charges get filed. Trial happens. And according to Smith's sworn testimony, conviction follows. Because proof beyond reasonable doubt already exists. The case is already built. Now let me show you why being forced to testify is Trump's absolute nightmare scenario. Actually having to answer questions under oath, where lying is perjury, where refusing to answer looks guilty, where every word can be used against him. Trump is terrified of testifying. We know this because he's avoided it whenever possible, taken the fifth hundreds of times, fought subpoenas, delayed depositions, done everything to avoid being under oath. And when he has testified, like in the E. Jean Carroll case, it went badly. He said things that hurt him, made admissions, created evidence that was used against him. So imagine Trump forced to testify about January 6th, about classified documents, about obstruction, with prosecutors who've studied the case for years, who know every detail, who can catch him in lies. Under skilled questioning, Trump would destroy himself, provide evidence of his own crimes, admit things he shouldn't admit, create sound bites that would seal his conviction. That's why immunity matters so much to Trump, because if he's not immune, he can be subpoenaed, required to testify, forced to answer questions, or invoke the fifth. And either way, he loses. Share this video with everyone you know, because what Smith did by testifying is create a permanent record. Trump can't erase Smith's testimony from the congressional record, can't delete his report from DOJ archives, can't make the evidence disappear. Can't uninterview the 250 witnesses. It's all preserved, all documented, all ready to be used against Trump. Now here's the political dimension that's making this even worse for Trump. Smith's testimony, even in closed session, creates massive pressure. It reminds everyone that Trump was investigated, that evidence exists, that charges were appropriate. It keeps the cases alive even though they're paused. And if Smith's deposition video gets released publicly, if people can watch him explain Trump's crimes, that's devastating. Because Smith is credible. Career prosecutor, decorated public servant, no partisan axe to grind, just explaining clearly and factually why Trump committed crimes. That kind of testimony from that kind of witness is powerful. It shifts public opinion. It makes conviction seem not just possible, but necessary. It makes it harder for a future DOJ to decline charges. Because how do you explain not prosecuting when the special counsel testified under oath that proof beyond reasonable doubt exists? You can't. Not without looking like you're protecting Trump for political reasons. Let me bring the receipts on what happens next. The earliest prosecution could happen is January 2029, when Trump's second term ends, when he's no longer president, when DOJ policy no longer applies. That's when Smith's evidence becomes active again, when charges can be filed, when trial becomes possible, and prosecutors will have everything they need. Smith did the work, built the cases, interviewed the witnesses, preserved the evidence. Future prosecutors just pick up where Smith left off. Use his report as a roadmap, call his witnesses, present his evidence. It's all there. Ready. Waiting. But here's what Trump is terrified of. A lot can happen between now and 2029. He could try to pardon himself before leaving office, could resign and have his VP pardon him, could flee to a country without extradition. But all of those options are desperate. All of them make him look guilty. All of them confirm what Smith testified to under oath. And there are state charges too. Georgia, New York, cases that Trump can't pardon himself out of. That will proceed regardless of federal DOJ policy that create additional accountability mechanisms. So even if federal charges somehow don't happen, state prosecutions will. Notice what the courts are doing to Trump's immunity claims. They're narrowing them, saying immunity doesn't cover everything, distinguishing official from unofficial acts, creating a framework where most of what Trump's accused of can be prosecuted. Election interference is campaign conduct, not official duty. Classified documents retention is a personal crime, not presidential function. Obstruction of investigation is criminal behavior, not official act. Courts are saying all of it falls outside immunity. All of it's prosecutable. All of it can lead to conviction. So Trump's immunity defense is weak, getting weaker every day, being shredded by courts that refuse to give presidents royal protection. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because here's what this means politically for Trump. Smith testifying, courts narrowing immunity, evidence being preserved, all of it creates a narrative. Trump's guilty, proof exists, justice is coming. Maybe not today, but eventually, when he can't hide anymore, when protection runs out, when accountability catches up. And that narrative affects elections, affects how people view Trump, whether moderates trust him, whether independents support him. Knowing that a credible prosecutor testified under oath about Trump's crimes affects political calculations, makes voters uncomfortable, costs Trump support at the margins. And if Smith's video gets released, that amplifies the effect exponentially, makes it real, makes it personal, makes it impossible to dismiss as partisan attacks when a career prosecutor is calmly explaining evidence and law. So Trump's political standing suffers, his legal jeopardy increases, his future accountability becomes more certain, all because Smith did his job, built cases, preserved evidence, testified truthfully, created a record that can't be erased or spun away, and Trump knows it. Knows that every day as president is a day closer to losing protection, knows that evidence is waiting, knows that prosecutors are ready, knows that 2029 could mean prison if he doesn't find an escape route. That's stress, that's fear, that's knowing your crimes are documented and conviction is likely, and the only thing saving you is temporary power that will eventually expire. Now let me show you why Trump can't help himself when it comes to testifying. He lies reflexively, contradicts himself constantly, makes claims he can't support. Under skilled questioning, he would destroy himself. And Smith knows Trump's guilty, spent years building the case, interviewed everyone, reviewed everything, presented to a grand jury. Smith doesn't have doubts, doesn't have questions, he has proof. And if he gets Trump on the stand, conviction is virtually guaranteed. Here's the bottom line. Jack Smith testified under oath that he had proof beyond a reasonable doubt to convict Trump. His report documents the crimes. His investigation built the cases. His evidence is preserved. And courts are shredding Trump's immunity defenses, making future prosecution increasingly likely. Trump's not being dragged to testify today. But the legal framework is being built for when he can be forced onto the stand, when charges can be filed, when trial can proceed, when conviction can happen. All of it waiting for when Trump's no longer president, when protection expires, when justice becomes possible. And that's soon, 3 years. That's all the time Trump has left before he loses presidential immunity, before DOJ policy no longer protects him, before Smith's evidence can be used in court. Because this story is developing rapidly. The evidence is mounting. The walls are closing in. The legal framework for prosecution is being constructed piece by piece. Smith's testimony is a permanent record. His report is published. His cases are built. His witnesses are ready. All of it waiting for 2029, for when Trump's vulnerable, for when prosecution becomes possible. And when that day comes, when Trump finally loses protection, all this evidence will be there. All this testimony will be cited. All this preparation will pay off. Trump can delay, can fight, can appeal, but he can't stop it forever. Can't erase evidence, can't silence witnesses, can't undo Smith's work. Eventually, time runs out, protection expires, accountability arrives, and Trump faces what he's been avoiding his whole life: actual legal consequences for his actions. That's what Smith's testimony documented. That's what courts are enabling by limiting immunity. That's what's coming for Trump whether he admits it or not. Justice delayed but not denied, postponed but not prevented, waiting for the moment when Trump can't hide behind the presidency anymore, when he's just another citizen facing criminal charges, when wealth and power can't save him from evidence and law and accountability. The roadmap is drawn. The cases are built. The evidence is preserved. Now it's just counting down to 2029, to when Trump loses protection, to when prosecutors can finally do what Smith testified was achievable: convict him beyond reasonable doubt for crimes he committed with evidence he can't escape and justice he can't avoid. That day is coming. Smith made sure of it by doing the investigation right, by building airtight cases, by preserving everything, by testifying under oath, by creating a record that survives Trump's presidency. 3 years left. Then we find out if justice delayed is still justice delivered, if evidence preserved leads to conviction achieved, if Smith's testimony translates to Trump's accountability. The clock is ticking. The evidence is waiting. And Trump knows his time is running out. This is Trump's legal nightmare. His investigator testified under oath about his crimes. Courts are shredding his immunity defenses. Evidence is preserved and waiting. The only thing protecting him is a presidency that will eventually end. And when it does, all this comes crashing down. All the evidence, all the testimony, all the charges, everything Smith documented and explained and proved. It'll all be there, ready, waiting to destroy him. This story continues. Stay tuned.